What if I told you that being wrong more than half the time could make you rich? Sounds insane, right? Because you've been programmed to believe that success means being right. But the market doesn't pay you for being right. It pays you for staying in the game long enough to let math work, while everyone else is too emotional to stay. Let that sink in. The best traders aren't fortune tellers. They're mathematicians, with emotional discipline. They know something most don't. You don't have to win most of the time. You just have to lose correctly. You see, most traders approach the market like it's a test, where every wrong answer costs their identity. But the market isn't a test. It's a casino. And the house doesn't win because it's always right. The house wins because it understands probability. It knows the odds. It accepts loss as part of profit. It never reacts emotionally. You, on the other hand, get emotional after 3 losses. And start rewriting a system that statistically works. That's not strategy. That's sabotage. You think you're playing the market? But the market's been playing you. Every impulsive entry. Every emotional exit. Every time you doubled your risk to recover a loss. You were being pulled by the same psychology that casinos have studied for decades. If you're starting to realize this game isn't about charts or patterns, but about how long you can stay rational while others lose control, subscribe to Mindwired Trader. Because here, we don't teach setups. We teach state of mind. Every beginner dreams of an 80% win rate. They equate accuracy with mastery. But the pros know better. Accuracy is ego. Expectancy is truth. Here's what that means. If you risk $100 per trade and win $250 when you're right, you can lose 6 out of 10 times and still make money. That's 40% accuracy and profitability. But most traders won't survive long enough to see it, because they'll emotionally self-destruct after loss number 3. They'll quit before probability has time to work. The truth is, you don't need to control the market. You just need to control exposure. That's how casinos survive every outlier. Because they never bet everything on one spin. They play long enough for the math to save them. And the same is true for you. If you size correctly, accept losses as expenses, and execute your edge consistently, the numbers will do the heavy lifting. But you won't get there until you stop treating every trade like a personal verdict on your worth. You don't blow up because your strategy fails. You blow up because your ego can't handle randomness. Randomness terrifies the untrained mind. It feels chaotic, unfair, personal. But to the professional, randomness is rhythm. It's the breathing pattern of the market. The space between probabilities that eventually balance out. The healed trader doesn't chase certainty. They trust the sequence. Because they know one truth. Edge isn't accuracy. Edge is endurance. You've probably been told, don't trade like a gambler. But here's the twist. You should. At least. You should think like the house. The casino never panics after a loss. It knows variance. It trusts math. It keeps running the same edge. Because it understands probability is only proven through time. The house never needs to win every game. It just needs to never stop playing its edge. So ask yourself, do you trade like the house? Or like the gambler? When you trade from ego, you act like the gambler. You raise your risk when you're angry. You cut profits too early because you're afraid to lose them. You break rules when the pain gets loud. But when you trade from awareness, You become the house. You see every loss as rent. The cost of staying in the game. That shift changes everything. The gambler needs to win now. The house knows it will win eventually. And when you think like that, fear disappears. Because you no longer need to be right. You just need to be consistent. Consistency replaces control. Endurance replaces ego. And peace replaces panic. That's when trading stops being emotional. And starts becoming mathematical art. You understand something you didn't before. It was never about predicting. It was about positioning. You don't need to know where the next candle goes. You only need to know where you belong in the sequence. And once you know that, you're no longer playing the game. You've become the house. You don't need to win often. You just need to stop betting against yourself. The market isn't emotional. It's arithmetic. But the human behind the screen isn't. You can teach someone risk management in 10 minutes. But you can't teach emotional management that fast. Because emotion doesn't live in logic. It lives in memory. Every number on your chart, every pip of loss or gain, carries emotional weight. That's why two traders using the same strategy can have completely different results. One executes probability. The other executes fear. You tell yourself, I'm following the math. But you're not. You're following adrenaline. When a trade goes green, you feel validated. So you close early to protect that feeling. When a trade goes red, you feel attacked. So you double down to defend your ego. That's not probability. That's pain management. Mathematically, the difference between a winning and losing trader often comes down to one simple metric: expectancy. Expectancy equals win percent times average win, loss percent times average loss. Sounds simple, right? But here's the catch. Your emotional state decides those numbers long before your calculator does. When you panic, you shrink your winners. When you chase, you expand your losses. Your system doesn't fail, your self-regulation does. The math is stable. You aren't. You keep asking the market to be predictable. But you can't even predict yourself. That's why expectancy is psychological. It's not about formulas, it's about execution integrity. If your emotions distort your risk-reward ratio, then your emotional expectancy is negative. No matter what your technical expectancy says. That's the gap most traders never close. So let's flip it. What if you measured your consistency not by profit, but by emotional accuracy? How often did you actually follow your system? Even when it felt wrong? How many times did you hold your position while your body screamed to exit early? That's where mastery lives. Not in more wins, but in fewer self-betrayals. Trading isn't about controlling the market. It's about controlling the reaction to the market. Because in the end, your win rate doesn't define your success. Your ability to stay objective in variance does. The pros understand this deeply. Variance isn't chaos. It's structure over time. You just haven't stayed long enough to see the pattern yet. The casino understands this perfectly. They lose hundreds of hands every day. But they never feel like losers. Because their edge exists across thousands of rounds. Not individual moments. That's how you need to trade. Not emotionally attached to a single outcome, but committed to a consistent process. You don't need to fix your losses. You need to fix your relationship with losing. Every losing trade you emotionally resist creates future instability. Every loss you accept with awareness creates future balance. That's what separates the professional from the amateur. One reacts to emotion. The other measures it. The professional doesn't ask, "Did I win?" He asks, "Did I execute?" Here's the irony most traders never realize. The ones obsessed with accuracy are usually the least profitable. Because accuracy is emotional addiction. A need to feel right more than to be rich. When you trade for accuracy, you're trading for dopamine. When you trade for expectancy, you're trading for freedom. This is why the market breaks most people. Not because it's unfair, but because it's honest. It reflects your math, and your mind. When your mind seeks validation, your math collapses. When your mind accepts uncertainty, your math compounds. Do I want to be right? Or do I want to be consistent? Because you can't be both. Consistency demands surrender. You let go of the need to be correct. And trust the probabilities to reveal truth over time. That's what the casino mindset really means. It's not recklessness. It's realism. It's understanding that control doesn't create profit. Probability does. And probability only rewards emotional discipline. The untrained trader counts trades. The disciplined one counts behavior. You don't blow accounts because your system fails. You blow them because your nervous system does. When your body reacts faster than your awareness, you're no longer trading a market. You're trading memory. Every impulsive trade is an echo from the past. A repetition of emotional bias dressed as logic. Mastery isn't more control. It's more calm. And calm isn't built in profit. It's built in process. Because in a game of numbers, your emotions are the only variable that can't be automated. So if you want to master the math, start with the emotion. The house never fears losing a hand. Because it never forgets the math. It's not arrogance. It's awareness. The casino doesn't play with emotion, it plays with edges. It accepts that variance is part of the system. It trusts numbers over narratives. And that's what mastery looks like in trading. You stop trying to predict. You stop trying to force outcomes. You start thinking like the house. The goal isn't to win more often. The goal is to survive long enough for your edge to unfold. The house wins because it knows how to wait. It doesn't panic when luck turns against it. It doesn't celebrate small streaks. It simply continues, same structure, same discipline, same calm. That's the blueprint for a professional trader. The gambler chases emotion. The house collects data. The gambler bets to feel alive. The house plays to stay consistent. The gambler reacts to loss. The house records it. The gambler needs to be right. The house needs to stay. You used to think trading was about control. Then you learned it was about emotion. Now you see, it was always about probability. You can't escape randomness. You can only position yourself to thrive within it. That's the paradox of mastery. You win by accepting you will lose. And you stay calm because you understand. That one trade means nothing against the sum of 10,000. The house doesn't care about any single hand. It knows the math works over time. You must become that. The player who no longer reacts, but observes the rhythm with quiet confidence. You don't chase luck. You create predictability through consistency. That's the difference between the amateur and the master. Not intelligence. Not even strategy. But emotional time horizon. Amateurs think in outcomes. Masters think in sequences. The longer your perspective, the quieter your emotions. Every short-term fear fades when you zoom out. You stop obsessing over single trades. You start caring about cumulative behavior. You stop needing to be right. You start focusing on doing right. That's when trading becomes art. Not a battle. Not a grind. But a conversation with chaos. The more you let go of control, the more control you actually gain. Because the truth is, control was never about manipulating outcomes. It was about mastering your response. That's what being the house really means. Psychological endurance. Emotional neutrality. Mathematical patience. It's the mindset that says, loss is not failure. Impulsiveness is. The untrained trader says, I need to win. The trained one says, I need to execute. One chases profit. The other cultivates process. And only one survives long enough for probability to reveal its pattern. You don't beat the market. You outlast it. At some point, you realize, it was never the market testing you. It was your emotions testing your discipline. Every chart, every spike, every drawdown was a mirror showing you what you still needed to regulate. When that realization lands, everything changes. Because now, even loss feels neutral. Drawdown feels temporary. You no longer fight the variance. You flow with it. You are the house now. You think in probabilities. You act with patience. You feel without reacting. You trade without identity. You've stopped seeking profit as validation and started seeing it as reflection. That's when you truly understand. The market was never your opponent. It was your teacher. Every spike, every dip, every sleepless night wasn't trying to destroy you. It was trying to show you who you were beneath the noise. And now, you've seen it. Mastery isn't about finding the perfect system. It's about becoming the kind of person who can execute one without breaking. You've become the system. You've become the house. And that's when the game stops being about winning and starts being about awareness. If this episode helped you see trading in a new way, hit subscribe and step deeper into the Mindwired Trader series. Because the next evolution isn't strategy. It's state of mind.